Hello everyone and welcome back to Poetry Surprises. Today I'd like to revisit the films I made around about the turn of the century, around about 2000, 2001, where I featured 5 writers from Dumfries and Galloway in a sequence of films lasting about 10 minutes each called Solway Fire. We've already seen the film about William Neal, and today I'd like to take a look at and to re-show the film around the poet Douglas Lipton. Now, Douglas and I first met soon after I moved to Dumfries and Galloway, so we've had a long-lasting acquaintance, relationship, friendship, and yeah, I've read on many occasions with Douglas as group readings, travelling around at the Edinburgh Festival, in Carlisle, in places across Dumfries and Galloway. So we go back quite a way, and Douglas is a poet who I really admire. I admire his insight, his brevity, his wit, sometimes bordering on sarcasm, but a great deal of satire, but very, very dry, insightful poet with a huge command of language. And I've published quite a few of his poems and also some pamphlets. Here's one called Fairy Tales, which came out in the 1990s. Here's another one which appeared with the magazine Markings called How Bop Poems. There's 24 pages, but a lovely little pamphlet and beautifully written poems, and also a pamphlet called The Outside World, which was part of the Galloway Poets series that I published in the 1990s. But he's actually, I've just realised, looking on my bookshelves, I realised that, he's really prolific. And and there's some, An Enclave in Eden, The Aquarium, and Mariscat Press also published The Stone's Sleeping Bag. And there's more. He's still very active poet. Look him up on Facebook, and he's often commenting and putting ideas up and observations. He loves wildlife. He's a big beetle man, I think, actually. Beware. He's got a great poem about the Death Watch beetle. Anyway, enough. Let's have a look at the film I made. It covers 3 or 4 poems, sequences of poems, and it's in a square format, well, squarish format, because it was on the old days of real digital recording. I hope you enjoy it. I think he's a great poet, and I love the guy. So this is my film on Douglas Lipton.
The flora and fauna of independent Scotland had a very odd beginning. I was walking on the island of Hoy in Orkney, and I just began to hear these little voices of various creatures, and I was in a panic because I didn't have a notebook or anything with me, and I thought I've got to try and remember them. Independence! What's that at all, eh? Hey, going to geese a bit of your hearty supper, pal? Aye, and I will batter you if you don't. They were definitely speaking to me in Scots, these creatures. They weren't all creatures for that matter. Me and my pals was looking for the Perty. Aye, we ken Shug and Senga, and Jimmy and Senga, and Willie and Senga, and... cheers, Agnes. The sense that the Scots' voices were very different, they were kind of from all over the place. Oh, I'm no fussy. Omnivoracious me. I tell you though, I really like a bit of mealy jerker with chips, a pickled egg and a dodded chinky stir fry, and some curry sauce to wash it down. The poem was arising at a time when there was a lot of discussion in the media, I suppose, about the possibility of Scotland becoming an independent nation, and People were beginning to get a whiff of a Scottish Parliament not so far away, and it did look as if it was beginning to be a reality. And I was a bit concerned that our national traits were perhaps not quite up to the task that was. Santa Claus? I have a clean beak too. Look, believe me, there's no sick a buddy. Well, I would surely ken. I live down your lum, don't I? Aye, and it's awfully nice and cosy in my stoury wee snug. Folks like me there, for I'm a right character, so I am. The prophecy, I think, is somewhat fulfilled. See parrot, they cry me, for my deed comical mannerisms and my big smiley beak. See parrot, affectionate like, aren't ye? What a joke. See if I could build a floating nest. Do you think I'd set yin web fit in your smelly wee country? I still think we need to be careful. But not without optimism. I think most of us are. Was like us, damned few, and we're all dead. We're standing in the main street of New Galloway. It's a small town that I used to visit occasionally when I was in my late teens. Somewhere up the road here is an ancient ash tree, and embedded in it, as my memory tells me, there's a small metal cross. Like a fossil, the tree endured behind the village. And this looks like it. Years ago, to the people's blessing, a metal cross was hammered like a brand into its hide. So I think the cross is around the other side of the tree. Through time, the tree absorbed the cross, took it to its heart. The chemistry of wood and metal caused reiteration of the sign, ring after ring, into the core of the tree. Then it was felled, its old bark sheared, its length cut repeatedly and poised like sculpture in the yard for seasoning by the weather. The carpenter, who used to mark his craftsmanship with a small carved fish, found the echo of a cross all through his timber and knew he would have to make another table. It's the Last Supper, basically. Also something to do with sacrifice, I suppose. What's the table for? It's also something about community, people gathering together around a table. The image of the fish comes from several sources. Obviously it is a Christian symbol again, quite overtly so, but a lot of traditional craftsmen in wood do mark their work with little animals. It was really both of these things that were in my mind, so again it has the Christian element and again it has the craftsman element. Pattern is something that I think I personally respond to a lot, although I suspect that many people do, and it's something I think that human beings naturally look for in life and the world, and we're very relieved when science reassures us that there are patterns, sometimes at least. In terms of poetry, I like the traditional things of rhyme and rhythm very much, and the music of poetry. I write aloud. I like starting off with a detail and allowing it to kind of work into something much more, I hope, more meaningful or more poignant in some sense. Table is an attempt, I think, to partly look at the creative process in an oblique way. The process of creating a poem through time is addressed through the process of creating something in wood. It's also, I think, an attempt to say something for a community of people. It's also, I think, an attempt to understand that things happen in cycles, that things recur and things repeat. Perhaps even the idea of the rings of the tree, there's some kind of eternal recurrence through that, perhaps. Listen, speakers. I was a spore in heaven's air before I settled in this ground. Move apart the leaves and mould, and by my bruises you will know you've found an angel. Take me in. Listen, speakers. I am waiting in the churchyard where the boulders smashed the tree. Move the fragments carefully. Tightly bound in tainted skin you'll see an angel. Take me in and let me eat. Listen, speakers. What is this garden where I wait? And is there far beyond these walls a city shrouded all in light where restless people dream about the fall of angels? Sing me healing sleep. Listen, speakers. The sun has drained its wine away, and comes the moaning of the curlew and the wind song of the whooper, earthbound with a broken wing like a wounded angel. Take me in, and let me eat, and sing me healing sleep. In Songs of the Falling Angel, there was a ritual involved, and we conceived it as something which would be performed in a church or a building of that kind, a building that had that kind of power, roof beam. There is an angel lying broken on a roof beam, an angel lying broken on a roof beam, and all around the earth is flesh and blood. There is a young girl with a baby in her belly. There is a young girl with a baby in her belly, and all around the earth is flesh and blood. There is a wing covert burning brightly in a pylon, a wing covert burning brightly in a pylon. A face staring from a furrow on a hillside, a face staring from a furrow on a hillside. In the bottom of a bottle, an angel's claw caught and broken in the bottom of a bottle. There is a young girl crying, crouched among some sacking, a young girl crying, crouched among some sacking, and all around the earth is flesh and blood. The poems actually are a narrative. They actually tell a story from a certain beginning to a certain end, and there is a narrative thread running through them. And again, we wanted, in a sense, to tell a story. The idea of a disastrous descent of an angel brought down by human agency, if you like, then some kind of recovery process again through the good of human beings on the ground, tending to and looking after, and the possibility of some kind of I guess hope growing out of something so Pods. Hereabouts. I'm looking for pods. Don't mind me. Thereabouts. I'm not to worry. I'm nobody's business. Whereabouts? Pods. Finch. Somewhere. What's a name? It doesn't matter. Anywhere. I'm not a problem to myself. Finch. Pods. Nowhere. Have it your own way. Each bird represented in this sequence of poems is now extinct, but Last Flights gives it a chance to tell its story. Although the bird is expressing its character, there's an element of allegory about it as well, I suppose, and I guess there's a satirical thread running through it too. Let your oh go, oh let your oh go. Give your oh one more chance to go where only oh go. Don't pluck your oh first, oh no, but let it go, just let it go. Don't put its best on an old king's nape. It's not an honour for an oh to see its beauty spread across the sagging shoulders of a king which weren't bred for sprouting wings, no matter what his people say, no matter what your high king thinks, this king of yours being just a man. So let the oh go, man, and let it go before it can't, for now it seems that everybody's all jumped up, upset the cart, become 100 little kings when only one was once enough. Oh no. Oh no. So, let this oh go, boys. Let it go and let it go. Don't fry it up and gulp it down. Don't pluck it first. Oh no, oh no. Just let this oh go, boys, and give an oh one more chance to go where only oh go.